Yo, what's poppin'? So I want to talk a little bit about the meta, what we saw in week one, and why we saw a bit of a shift. So we saw less Zarya. We saw Zarya one time on Control Center by the Vancouver Titans. It did not work out. We saw very little Winston success. We saw Toronto spam the Winston. It looked bad. It looked very bad. I think we saw a few other teams maybe play it on a Watchpoint Gibraltar. I don't entirely remember. I could. Oh, this is Toronto, Toronto, Toronto. Yeah, Paris played a little bit. Yeah, so Paris played some of it, but like teams like that. Um, and then we saw those two things were sort of prominent, fell out of the way, fell to the wayside a little bit. You know, they're not really as played. So why is that? Well, that comes down to what is good, right? Obviously, that's how meta works. So Zenyatta, because Zenyatta gets an extra 25 HP, he's harder to dive and kill, especially with support from Baptiste, who also got buffed thanks to up here. Now heals 50 instantly and 50 over time instead of 100 over time, which is a pretty good change, right? Pretty well, not good, like good as in strong, right? So a mix of those makes Zen harder to dive, especially for Winston. So Winston dives him, and he gets discorded, and he kind of blows up, right? That's just kind of how it goes. Brig is also in the mix, but basically, yeah. And it's kind of similar for Zarya because Zarya kind of struggles into the poke. Zarya normally, right, you let the Reaper take the space, you walk up, you slowly kind of drain their space away. But when the Zen's playing so far away and can do so much to a Reaper TPing in. And the Reaper can force Lamp maybe at best, but it's just not there. Like I haven't seen like anyone play it, right? Obviously, I don't know exactly. I guess we saw Vancouver do it, but it was on Control Center, so it was not quite the same. But um, I guess I can't say for sure because we haven't seen it. But to me, it seems like the Zen and the BAP makes it a little too difficult for the Zarya and the Reaper. The Zarya definitely does not play well into that backline, right? And Reaper doesn't really have a lot to do there, so kind of a struggle there for those two tanks. And that's why we see them kind of fall to the side for your Dooms, your Balls, Sigma, and Ryan even. To an extent, we saw some Diva. So before I talk about those, I'm going to talk about Soldier, who has also fallen off the meta because of these buffs. He loses 10% of his damage output basically because they make each pellet do 2 less damage, 2 out of 20, 10%, right? So he also gets his movement speed reduced from 50 to 40%. And then his visor also gets nerfed and has fall off now. Yes, it can technically do more damage, but that's not. It's more of a nerf than a buff because that fall off range is very impactful for on maps like Watchpoint Gibraltar, even long sightline maps in general, where maybe he gets phased out more for an Ashe or a Widow or Sojourn even. So that's why we've seen less Soldier. We did see some teams play it, like London played it when they were playing Rush. They continued to play the Soldier sometimes. Sparker did switch over to the Sojourn at times, but there was some Soldier gameplay. I can't think of many other at the top of my head, but I know there were some. So it's a mix of his nerfs in conjunction with Sojourn's buffs, right? The right click is easier to hit, which makes it a very potent tool to kill like Tracers, Sombras, things like that. Her power slide has been reduced by a second. And also, she shoots faster and has more ammo, which makes her charge her right click faster, which makes her more dangerous, really. So a mix of those two things make Sojourn better than Soldier right now. She has better pick potential. She has better kiting potential now with her sprint on a lower cooldown, and she can also shoot while she runs away, which is very good. You'll see times where Sojourn gets dove, and she slides away, and she can turn around and she can fire right away. The Soldier cannot do that. The Sojourn can. And both of their ultimates function in a pretty similar kind of way. Sojourn's a little more skillful because you do have to hit your real shots, but she can also flank better because she has faster movement in like small durations, kind of with power slide, and she can reach and she has verticality, which is something Soldier doesn't have. So those two things mixed with the railgun being so powerful means that she can get into angles that Soldier struggles to get into as fast, and she can maybe find a one tap basically with her right click. Uh, so that's like the little differences between Soldier. Soldier does have better like raw damage numbers. Like if you're trying to shoot a Sigma shield or you're trying to just get consistent damage out, Soldier does have that a bit better. But Soldier makes up for it with the pick potential and the movement basically. Other characters that we haven't seen as much of. Have seen less Lucio, but that's more. I don't think this nerf has anything to do with it. I think it's just more that Zen is strong, so you want to pair him with a BAP or a Brig. Or sometimes we see Lucio played in the Rush. We see it. We see some teams still opt for it, but it's more evened out now because you can argue, oh, BAP has Zen provides more value. BAP and Brig. Sometimes we'll see that the Brig better in a brawl. So Lucio, I don't think it's a self-healing penalty increased. I feel like it's not so much that. It's so much BAP has better peel potential. Brig is good at peeling. Maybe that makes Brig more played over him sometimes, but I doubt it. And then Ana, we've seen less Ana because we've seen less Monkey, basically, and that's what Ana synergizes best with. We have seen some teams play the Ana a bit on other characters. Like, we've seen it in some ball comps, I think, maybe some Ryan comps, things like that. But for the most part, I think people are more valuing the Baptiste Immo and the healing when the anti-nade, especially with that 1 second reduction, which makes dives harder to execute. So it's just more consistent with Zen. But that pretty much goes over the characters we've seen less of. So now I wanted to touch on how the new comps work that we've seen. Well, first, actually, I'll go over the comps that have continued. So we've still seen the Rush played mostly the same ways. Maybe the Soldier instead of the or maybe the Sojourn instead of the Soldier at times. Maybe sometimes teams would opt for Ana instead of BAP. Things like that. But now it's been pretty consistent. You have Soldier, Sojourn, your Mei, your Ryan, and your BAP, and your Lucio, right? London probably spearheading the Rush the best. We have seen it from, I believe, Florida. I've seen it some from Glads, maybe. We've seen some from... I can't remember. Dallas played a little bit. So we've seen it, but mostly, yeah, London is going to be your de facto Rush team, right? But it plays mostly the same. I think it's a bit worse at times because the Zenyatta is very good into it. Like, Coliseum used to be a very good Rush map. We saw London play it. It looked kind of hard for them because it's hard for them to push into the high ground even more so because now there's more poke with the Zenyatta, with the Baptiste, with the Sojourn. And the poke is more devastating because, oh yeah, the Soldier poke, but you're not going to die from being revealed to a Soldier for a few seconds. If you get revealed to a Sojourn for a moment, she can headshot you and kill, right? So things like that make it so the Rhine comp is maybe a little weaker on some of those maps. Now we'll still see it on like your control centers, on like your Queen Street, things like that. But it has maybe been a little worse. At the same time, you can argue, oh, Baptiste buffs make it better. Yeah, but I think it's more worse than it is better. It's still very much played on the maps where it suits it, but that's why we've seen London having to bring out Poco to play the Sigma. But before I talk about that, I'll talk about Doomfist, because we've seen Houston play the Doomfist, we've seen Atlanta play the Doomfist, Gladiators play the Doomfist a lot. The Doomfist functions basically the same as it did. He got no changes, right? But think of him more as Winston now, in a way, because, well, that's not really fair either. He's doing the same things, he's just against Ball, because he's probably better as your all-in, like, we're going to dive and nano tank. Like that, to maybe go with your Genji if you were to play one or something like that. But whereas Ball is maybe more of a setup for your DPS, Doom is still going to go in there and do the things himself in a way. It's a little different from Ball, but it's more or less the same. We have seen Dante maybe have to flex out his playstyle a little bit because when it comes to peeling and whatnot, Doomfist can peel for the Wrecking Ball quite easily. Of course, if there's a slam, it's a little hard, but he can slam the Wrecking Ball before he hits the ground, or punch it pretty easily. You can punch a ball if he's trying to roll in. There's ways with dealing with Wrecking Ball as Doomfist, right? The punch into the ball, like, Doomfist just wins. Ball can't really touch Doomfist in any way. The thing also is that no more Ana is good for Doomfist. Zen is a little rough because the Discord orb kind of shreds him even through power block. However, Ana is probably worse for him because the sleep dart just goes right through it, the nade, and he dies. So he has to be cautious, and he's not able to play off of cooldowns anymore because the Zen will always have the Discord. But it's more of like a consistent, like he can go in more consistently now. He doesn't have to wait for a nade or a sleep dart or something. Uh I do like Doom in this meta, maybe even more than the last one. We'll see as it goes on. But I think the lack of Ana is really good. I think teams can play around the Zenyatta. And I think Wrecking Ball and Ryan, Doom both has a pretty good matchup into both of them. Uh, and Sigma even to an extent, right? So we'll see how that goes moving forward, but I do like Doomfist a bit here. So now I'll talk about Wrecking Ball because I already touched on it a little bit. So Wrecking Ball, you see him to set up your DPS, right? He's setting up your Echo to get stickies. He's setting up the Tracer to get just to like one clips off, big damage, and things like that. And the knockback increase makes him able to do it against tanks better. So he can do it against Zarya better. He can do it against Reinhardt better, things like that. And also super displace the squishies as well. We've seen Ball a lot from a lot of teams. Most teams have showed Ball. Shock, Florida, even London played it a little bit. We saw Mag play some. Kellen, literally every team has brought it out. Toronto hasn't. We'll not talk about that here, but Atlanta hasn't, I don't think. I don't know. But we've seen most teams, more teams than not, bring out the Ball. And that's just because he's so consistent, right? He doesn't care so much about the Zen Discord. There's nothing really to stop him in the backline. There's no sleep dart anymore. He really doesn't have a lot stopping him from doing anything, which I saw as a weakness because I was like, oh, Winston doesn't have that either. But now Winston does have that in this meta because Winston cares about the Zenyatta Discord a lot compared to Ball. He doesn't have the same escape tools as easily. Also, Winston can get kicked out of his shield juggles or whatever it's called. Shield dance, his shield dance. Zenyatta can kick him out of that actually. So it's not non-relevant. It is relevant, but I don't know. It's just Wrecking Ball, right? And I think the Wrecking Ball has been not that impressive to me so far this season. But I think his teams get used to having him without a diva or Zarya or whatever they were playing in Overwatch 1, mostly diva, right? But I think teams will get better because honestly, I was not impressed by a lot of balls. The balls did not impress me, I must say. But I do think it will be a good option, and I think it'll be more consistent than the Doomfist because of its ability to set up your DPS so well. But yeah. So and then I'll talk about the Sigma comp, which is the last piece of the meta puzzle. Sigma kind of plays in a way similar to Zarya, as in like you're slowly taking space and you're kind of either weathering the dive or you're dissuading a dive from coming in. The difference is he doesn't have the same aggression that Zarya will get when she gets high charge, so it's even more slow, and you don't have that Reaper to take space, so you're playing more off of your DPS to get picks and more off of the enemy team dive to mess up. Or if you're playing Sigma v Sigma, it's a bit different, right? You're taking space a lot better. You're being a bit more aggressive, right? Because you can't get like booped in or whatever. But Sigma is still it's interesting because you're kind of using your shield more for yourself, right? You've always kind of done that with Sigma, but before Sigma was like always, Overwatch 1, you play on the off angle, you'd let your ball go in, you'd let your Orisa bunker up somewhere, and you'd like play for poke, right? In this, it's very awkward, I find. It looks, at least. Like you see Poco, very good Sigma play. He's playing like disjointed from his team still. But I don't know how to describe it, man. It's like a slow, like it's so weird, it's so slow and pokey, but it's like the Zarya comp, but less aggression at times, more defenses, more reliance on DPS, and less coordination almost. Because you think of what is he actually coordinating with his team? No one really. He's just playing for himself and letting his DPS flank, take angles, Maybe he's drawing aggro, things like that. You can argue Flux is maybe better than Grav. If you'd like, you can. Um, I don't know. It's awkward. It is a little weird. I'm not entirely sure how to describe it, but yeah, I don't know. It's been there a lot. It's more of an option to to just like fend off the dive. Basically, the ball comes in, you have an option to rock it. You're not going to probably die to it because you have so much HP and you have a grasp. You have a good ultimate. Yeah, I don't know. That's really it. It's weird. Maybe it's because he has CC and a shield and he can live and hold space. That's probably it. But Sigma plays very disjointed compared to the other tanks. Like you see, Doomfist requires DPS. Ball does not require sets up his DPS. That's his whole point. Reinhardt is like the centerpiece, and he's making everyone else work around him. Sigma is kind of off on his. It's a whole different thing. Like no one's comboing rock with anything, right? There's no rock combo. There's no anything there. It's like a separate unit kind of thing. He's point presence. He's blocking his. He's living. He's doing damage, but he's not. I feel like the coordination with his team isn't there. Now, maybe I need to watch more Sigma VODs, and I'm very incorrect. And he's like holding space like congruently with his DPS on the other side, maybe. But to me, it just feels like you're weathering the storm and you're slowly taking space with your shield and your resources. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching. That's gonna be it for me. Have yourself a good one, and comment down below your thoughts on the meta, things like that. Yeah, have a good one.